There is a fear within you that defies logic. It is not born of this lifetime. It does not respond to reason, to memory, or to the events you consciously recall. It lingers in the shadows of your being like a ghost whispering from behind a veil, not to frighten you, but to be acknowledged. You may feel it in moments of stillness, in dreams that wake you breathless, in sudden dread that has no cause. And yet it is not random. It is the remnant of something once lived, a fragment of a death you've already died. This is the hidden language of the soul, subtle, non-linear, timeless. In the silence between your thoughts, in the ache that returns without explanation, in the fear you cannot place, there is a story buried beneath your skin. Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist turned spiritual cartographer, opened a door through which these buried stories began to speak. Through thousands of past life regressions, he uncovered a truth both haunting and liberating. Many of our deepest fears are the echoes of unfinished deaths. These are not metaphors. They are imprints, stored not in your mind, but in the field of your consciousness, what ancient mystics called the subtle body. The soul does not forget. It carries the unresolved, the moments of shock, loss, betrayal, drowning, burning, falling, from one incarnation to the next. And unless seen and transmuted, these memories continue to shape your responses, your choices, your limits. That is why some people fear water without ever having had a traumatic experience. Others fear abandonment with a desperation that cannot be explained by their current relationships. These fears are not irrational. They are precise. They are markers. What if I told you that what you call fear is, in truth, a portal, that behind it is not punishment but memory waiting for light, that your soul is not broken but remembering? Your greatest fear may very well be your soul's way of pointing back to a pivotal death, one that was sudden, one that left something unfinished, a conversation, a choice, an emotion frozen in time. These fragments do not vanish simply because the body does. They carry on encoded in your energetic anatomy, waiting patiently for the right moment, the right life, to complete their arc. That moment may be now. To face your fear is not to destroy it. It is to meet it with presence, to listen. In that stillness you might not just feel something, you might see something. A scene, a face, a sound from another era. The soul speaks in imagery. The past speaks in sensation. You don't need hypnosis to begin. You need willingness, stillness, and the courage to allow your fear to become your teacher. Imagine sitting quietly, allowing the fear to rise and asking it, "Where are you from?" You may be surprised by what surfaces. A soldier struck down before seeing his child, a woman accused unjustly and left to die, a healer persecuted, a child lost at sea. Each story carried within you, layered like rings inside a tree. You are the forest of all you have lived. Brian Weiss taught us that healing does not always require remembering everything. It requires trusting the intelligence of your soul to bring forward only what is ready. And when that fragment comes, in a dream, a vision, a trembling breath, your task is to witness it without fear, to offer presence to what was once abandoned. And in that sacred witnessing, the fear begins to dissolve, not because it has been conquered, but because it has finally been seen. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel. When the mind cannot explain, the body speaks. And when the body trembles without cause, it is often the soul whispering truths the intellect is not yet ready to face. The soul's language is not spoken in words, but in sensation, in shivers, in heartbeats that race for no reason, in tears that arrive without a story. It speaks in symbols, in dreams, in flashes of déjà vu. To understand your fear, you must begin to listen beneath the surface of thought. Brian Weiss discovered that beneath the layers of psychological conditioning, there exists a deeper memory, not of this life, but of others. Patients under hypnosis would recall lives they had never read about, cultures they had never studied, and deaths they had never consciously experienced. Yet the detail was stunning, the emotions vivid, and the release profound. These were not fantasies. They were emotional truths seeking integration. You don't need to believe in past lives for this to affect you. The energy of the experience still lives within you, and energy does not disappear. It only transforms or repeats itself until it is transformed. Consider a child who at age 3 is terrified of suffocation. No trauma, no exposure, just a crippling, irrational fear. Now imagine, under regression, that same soul recounts a past life death in a smoke-filled room struggling for air. The body remembers. The fear is not of smoke, it is of dying without breath. The imprint remains. The key is not to label this as superstition or science. It is to feel the vibration of truth in your own experience. That moment when something inside you stirs, a recognition without logic. That's the soul speaking. Every recurring fear you hold has a frequency, a signature. It is not just something to fix. It is something to study. Trace it. Let it guide you. Where does it live in your body? When does it activate? What kind of imagery arises when you let it speak? Sit in the stillness of your fear. Let it expand. Let it become a shape, a sound, a memory. Don't analyze it, receive it. The mind wants to dissect, but the soul wants to be felt, and in feeling, you begin to remember. There may come a moment, brief, vivid, where you see yourself in another time, dressed differently, surrounded by people you've never met in this life yet somehow feel deeply connected to. You may hear a language you do not speak, yet understand. You may feel the shock of an ending that still reverberates through your present relationships, your habits, your limitations. This is not fantasy. This is integration. The fears we carry are often not warnings. They are invitations. Invitations to retrieve the pieces of ourselves left behind in other lifetimes. Brian Weiss reminded us that these fragments do not seek to haunt us. They seek wholeness. They are signals from the soul saying, now is the time to heal what was never healed before. The rational mind may resist this. It is trained to separate past from present, real from imagined. But the deeper part of you, the part that feels, that knows, is already aware. That fear you keep running from. You felt it before, long before, and this life may be the one where it is finally brought into the light. Healing doesn't come from avoiding fear. It comes from honoring it, sitting with it, allowing the story it holds to unfold, not in words but in feeling. You don't need to relive the trauma. You only need to feel safe enough to allow the echo to pass through you. Because in that allowing, the memory transforms. And in that transformation, the soul remembers not the death, but the lesson it came to carry forward. We have been taught to see time as a straight line, past behind us, future ahead, present as a fleeting point in between. But what if this linear map is an illusion created by the mind? What if the soul does not experience time in sequence but in patterns, spirals and echoes? In the work of Brian Weiss, past life memories often emerged not as distant stories, but as emotions intertwined with the present, as if past and present were breathing together in the same room. There is no past life, there is only life. And every imprint you carry, every unresolved fear, still pulses with energy now. Not yesterday, not centuries ago. Now. This is why a forgotten death can still govern your choices. Because in the space where the soul lives, that death is still happening, until it is seen, until the cycle completes. Your greatest fear is not a relic of the past. It is alive because its lesson remains unfinished. The soul does not measure time by clocks or calendars. It measures time by consciousness, by awareness. What is not fully seen remains active. What is fully seen dissolves into wisdom. This is why you may meet someone for the first time and feel terror or longing or recognition so deep it shakes your core. Because the energy between you is not new, the soul remembers. And it responds in the only way it knows how, through emotion, sensation, dreams. Brian Weiss told the story of a woman who feared enclosed spaces. Under regression, she remembered being sealed in a wall during a time of persecution. The fear was not irrational, it was cellular, and the moment she relived it, cried through it, felt it, the fear began to dissolve. Not because the event was erased, but because it was finally witnessed from a higher state of consciousness. You cannot change what happened. but you can change your relationship to it. That is the freedom your soul seeks. And in that freedom, fear transforms. It becomes a compass, pointing not to danger but to the place where your evolution is calling. What would happen if you began to see time not as a prison, but as a spiral staircase? Each step upward brings you closer to the center of who you are. Each fear is a doorway to another layer of the self, one that was hidden, forgotten, or silenced. But none of it is lost. It is all still within you, waiting to be re-entered, refelt, reintegrated. You are not the same person you were in that other life, but you are the same soul, and the healing you offer yourself now travels backward and forward across the timeline, rippling through lifetimes, transforming the whole. There is no separation. If you feel overwhelmed by a fear that makes no sense in this life, trust that it makes sense elsewhere. Don't dismiss it. Don't rush to fix it. Sit with it as you would with a small child who has been through something unspeakable. Offer it presence, warmth, permission to speak. Ask it gently, "What do you need me to see?" Sometimes the answer will come in images, sometimes in tears, sometimes in stillness, but always it will carry truth. Fear is not a curse, it is a map. And when you follow it with open awareness, it leads not to your destruction but to your liberation. Because behind every fear lives a soul fragment waiting to come home. You are not broken. You are dispersed, scattered across lifetimes, places, and memories, some clear, some hidden in fog. Every fear that lingers is a signal, a flare sent from a lost piece of yourself, asking to be remembered, reclaimed, and restored to wholeness. This is not metaphor, it is soul architecture. And Weiss offered us the blueprint. The way back is not through force, but through remembrance. To heal a fear rooted in a past life is to become a witness to your own soul's journey. Not just the beauty, but the terror. Not just the peace, but the fracture. What you fear most now may be the key to the part of you that once died too suddenly, too violently, too unprepared. That part did not disappear, it fragmented and it waits. How do you begin to gather the pieces? You begin by slowing down. In the quiet, your soul begins to surface, not with noise, but with knowing. You may find yourself drawn to a place you've never been, yet it feels like home. You may have an intense reaction to a historical era, a culture, a symbol. You may experience dreams that are too vivid to be invention. These are not accidents, they are retrievals. Your soul is guiding you toward reunion. Weiss spoke often of soul recognition, those sacred moments when we look into someone's eyes and feel something ancient stir. That stirring is memory, and it isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's painful. A deep unease, a fear of betrayal, a sense of unresolved karma. These too are clues. Your greatest fear might not stem from how you died, but from who you lost or who you failed to forgive. And forgiveness, in the soul's language, is not permission. It is liberation. It is the severing of karmic repetition, the end of the loop. You are not destined to relive the same pain over and over, but you are invited to meet it from higher ground. Ask yourself, what is the one fear I cannot explain, the one that feels deeper than this life? Then ask, if this fear had a voice, what would it say? The answer may not come as language, it may come as sensation, a tightening in the chest, a heat in the hands, a sudden image behind closed eyes. Do not rush to decode. Stay with it. Let it unfold. Healing is not performance, it is presence. Sometimes what is needed is not a solution, but a sacred witnessing. To sit with your fear the way you would sit beside someone grieving, with compassion, silence, and no agenda. The soul responds to this. It opens in the presence of gentleness. You may feel yourself shift, lighter, clearer. You may find the fear softens even if the story remains incomplete. That is progress. That is integration. In this process, the veil thins. You begin to realize that death is not the end and life is not the beginning. You are the thread that runs through all of it, timeless, resilient, radiant, even in your forgetting. The fear you hold is sacred. It is the last place your soul left itself, and every time you meet it with presence, You bring yourself back, piece by piece. This is the real journey, not forward, but inward. Not to become someone new, but to remember who you have always been, before the deaths, before the names, before the fear. You do not need to understand the entire story to heal. You only need to say yes to the part that arrives now, in this moment, and from that yes, 1,000 timelines begin to shift. Healing is not the erasure of fear. It is the alchemy of it, the quiet transformation that occurs when light meets shadow without resistance. You were never meant to run from your fear. You were meant to hold it, to understand its source, and to return to yourself through it. This is the journey your soul has chosen, not to avoid pain, but to become conscious within it. Not to escape death, but to remember what remains alive after it. Weiss taught that past life experiences surface not to disturb us, but to free us. The soul is not interested in nostalgia. It brings forth only what is unresolved, only what still holds a charge. The wound that repeats itself in this life is not punishment, it is a call. A sacred instruction from the deeper self saying, you are ready now. When you choose to face a fear whose origin is unknown, you are doing something ancient and revolutionary. You are reclaiming soul territory. You are stepping into a space where time dissolves and the self expands beyond body, name, and history. You become witness and participant, healer and healed. The old death loses its grip. The new self emerges. You may never fully remember the past life. That is not necessary. What matters is presence, the way you meet the fear today. When you feel it rising, breathe slower. When it tries to pull you into panic, soften. When your instinct is to numb or distract, stay. Fear is a current. You do not need to fight it. You only need to float long enough for the memory beneath it to rise. And when it does, when the image or emotion surfaces, bless it. Let it speak. Let it cry. Let it tell you how it ended, so that this time it may end differently. Perhaps your greatest fear is the fear of power, because once you misused it. Or perhaps it is the fear of visibility, because once you were condemned for being seen. Or perhaps it is the fear of love, because once love cost you your life. These patterns are not random, they are precise. But here is the miracle. You are not bound to repeat them. The moment you bring conscious awareness to the pattern, you begin to dissolve the karma. You release the binding. You shift the trajectory. You are not here by accident. This lifetime, with its fears, relationships, and turning points, was chosen with precision. Your soul is not behind. It is exactly where it needs to be. Even your fear is on time. The work now is gentle, sacred, intentional. Hold your fear like you would a child, trembling, confused, but full of life. Speak to it kindly. Invite it to show you what it remembers, and then breathe with it until it softens. This is the reunion. You came into this life with a purpose deeper than success or comfort. You came to retrieve what was lost, to awaken what was dormant, to complete what was left undone. Every fear is part of that calling, every tremor a clue. You are not alone in this work. You are surrounded by guides, soul allies, unseen hands gently guiding you toward the moment where memory becomes freedom. When fear arises again, and it will, do not push it away.